Hello and welcome back to this channel Comic Books. Today, we will be doing a recap of a Marvel Universe visual novel called Jane Foster, The Saga of Mighty Thor. Chapter 1. The chapter begins in the Norwegian Sea. A Roxxon submersible is approaching the seabed to investigate an anomaly. They believe they've come across a mountain range, but in reality they are frost giants. Back at the Roxxon sea base, they respond by activating attack sharks, but to no avail. Out on the moon, the Asgardians are watching Thor try again and again to lift MJOLNIR only to fail again and again. Odin goes to lift it himself, but he himself is unable to lift it. Hugin and Munin bring news that the Jotuns have invaded Midgard. Back at the Roxxon sea base, the scientists inside are terrified of the giants, when Malekith makes himself known and tells them that they have something the giants want. While Malekith makes inquiries of the scientists, Thor has arrived wielding Jarnjorn. He crashed into the dome and immediately begins attacking Malekith. As they battle, Malekith taunts Thor about the loss of his hammer, but during the battle, Thor has dropped Jarnjorn. Malekith picks it up and cuts off Thor's left arm. As Thor sinks into the deep and Malekith leads the frost giants to find their prize. Back on the moon, a shadowy figure approaches MJOLNIR and picks it up, transforming into a female version of Thor. Chapter 2. On the moon, the new Thor is awestruck by being the new Thor and holding MJOLNIR. It is apparent that there are two consciousnesses at work. She whirls the hammer and flies back to Earth, landing in the Pacific Ocean. Going inside a cavern, she finds the Avengers and the Warriors 3 frozen in ice. She ultimately confronts the frost giants and the battle is joined. Close by, aboard Roxxon Island, more frost giants are breaking through, but the Roxxon security and Ulik are managing to slow them down a little. Malekith then reveals himself as leading the assault, and they want one thing, the skull of Laufey. Thor crashes into the island and against her better judgment, begins to battle the frost giants there, protecting Dario Agger. As Dario heads into his vault for protection, Thor hurls MJOLNIR after him, and it gets trapped inside with him, leaving Dario trapped with a ricocheting MJOLNIR, and Thor trapped with frost giants without a hammer. Chapter 3. In Jotunheim, Skrymir and Malekith discuss their deal with each other, and Malekith informs him that he has located the skull of Laufey. It is in the possession of Roxxon on Earth, so the frost giants prepare to invade. In the present on Roxxon Island, Thor is trapped outside with the frost giants, while Dario Agger is trapped in a vault with the skull and a ricocheting MJOLNIR. Malekith confronts this new Thor, but she fights him and the rest of the giants off. The longer she is without the hammer, she begins to lose her power and revert back to whoever she really is. But at that moment, Malekith has broken through into the vault, releasing MJOLNIR to return to her hand. She takes the hammer and shatters the skull, destroying it. While Malekith rants that she has no idea what war she has unleashed, the Odinson has arrived and demands his hammer back. Chapter 4. In Asgardia, the Odinson wakes up to discover that his arm is gone. While he was unconscious, Odin sent word to the dwarves and had Skrybir fashion a new arm for the Odinson, forged of black Uru. Now, the Odinson confronts this new Thor on Roxxon Island, interrupting the battle between her, Malekith, and Minotaur. The Odinson doesn't care at all. He is just enraged at the presumption of this woman to claim the power and name of Thor. When Thor sends MJOLNIR flying at the frost giants, the Odinson is awestruck at her control of it. With a temporary respite, the Odinson relents and tells her that she is the one MJOLNIR has chosen, and only wants to know if she is his mother, who has gone missing. She grabs him and kisses him passionately, asking if he still thinks she is his mother, replying that he certainly hopes not. Putting aside their differences, Thor and Thor fight side by side against the frost giants, laying them all low before turning their attention to Malekith, who makes his escape back to Svartalfheim. With the threats gone, Dario Agger tells the Thors that they are trespassing and must leave immediately. They go to free the Asgardians and heroes that were frozen in ice. Finding Freyja and the Odinson bequeaths the name of Thor to her. Back at Roxxon Island, Dario reveals that the skull of Laufey was never really destroyed and offers it to Malekith in exchange for the opportunity to plunder realms. Chapter 5. In Asgardia, Odin is furious that MJOLNIR is in the hands of anyone other than his son. While on Earth, the new Thor is in battle with the absorbing man. While MJOLNIR distracts him, she breaks his jaw when Titania shows up. As Titania takes Creel's ball and chain, she hits him with it and tells her that she's standing down out of respect for what Thor is doing. As Odin peers into his crystal, demanding it to show him who she is, Freyja and the Odinson enter. As Odin rants about recent happenings, the Odinson demands to know what Kull is doing free. Odin tells him that he and his brother spent many months together, and he has named him his royal inquisitor and minister of justice. Odin returns to trying to discover Thor's identity, and rails at his viziers for failing him, demanding that they be thrown in jail. In a tavern, the Odinson finds Sif drinking alone and joins her. She is still furious that he fled her bedside and comes staggering back to her now. Very unsubtly, he asks her if she is the new Thor, and throwing her drink in his face, she storms off, telling him that the next time he speaks to her, he had best be armed. He unfurls his list and puts a question mark by her name. On the moon, Thor is there talking to herself when Freyja arrives. Freyja tells her that she only comes to talk and to warn her that Odin will not rest until he takes MJOLNIR from her, and that Malekith makes plans. Thor thanks her for the warning and advice, and before she leaves, Freyja asks her how it feels. She tells her that she imagines it to be unimaginable, to which Thor replies, "Not even close." Back in Asgardia, the warriors three come to help a drunken Odinson back home. While in the bowels of Asgardia, Odin and Kull go to release the destroyer to return MJOLNIR and the broken body of the woman who holds it. Chapter 6. In flashback, we see a small island in the Aegean Sea where a young 9-year-old Dario Agger's entire family was murdered by pirates. Hiding in a cave, he prayed for revenge and was answered. Now in the present on Roxen Island, the heads of those pirates are kept alive for his entertainment. Meeting with Malekith, they have made a deal where Roxen will get mining rights to every world the Dark Elves conquer. In Asgardia, the Odinson visits Heimdall hoping he can tell him who the mystery woman, but as always Heimdall is evasive, telling him that there are more important things on the horizon. Deep beneath Texas, the Odinson has found a den of rock trolls and is soundly beating on them, all the while screaming that he wants to know who she is. Later, on the moon, he is still vexed when is visited by Volstagg to tell him that Jane Foster has taken a turn for the worse. Rushing to Asgardia, he visits her bedside where she is still refusing to partake of anything too damned magical. Giving her a hug, he then crosses her off his list of suspects. Aboard a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, he is trying to get answers from Agent Coulson, who was hoping he could tell them. He then demands to know where Agent Solomon is, but she is not answering. We see her flying car, appearing abandoned above Roxen Island, while below Roxen receives an intruder alert. They open fire on this new Thor, to no avail. In Asgardia, Freyja demands to know what Odin is doing unleashing the destroyer inhabited by Kull loose in the world, specifically aimed at Thor. Chapter 7. In one of Roxen's illegal underground dumping areas, Agent Solomon is on the run from Roxen forces while talking to Agent Coulson, who wants to know if she's causing trouble again. After escaping, Coulson tells her that Thor has lost his hammer and she heads to the moon. Arriving there, she finds no one, but does find MJOLNIR. In the present, on Roxen Island, the new Thor is battling the Kull-controlled destroyer. After being knocked down, the destroyer gains control of MJOLNIR and begins stalking her with it. In Asgardia, Kull tells Odin that he has MJOLNIR and will teach her a lesson. In the skies above Midgard, the Odinson is still on his search for the identity of Thor when he is contacted by Freyja. She tells him of what Odin is doing, saying that they will need an army to stop him in Kull. Fortunately, the Odinson has a list. Leaving Roxen Island, Malekith and Dario Agger head to Ulfheim, while giving a lesson on all the 10 realms. Once there, they begin slaughtering all the light elves they can find. Back at the battle, Thor still retains control of MJOLNIR despite it being in the destroyer's hand. She sends them both careening around the area, slamming into rocks and ground, finally jarring it loose from the destroyer's grasp. Hurling lightning from her hands, she causes a massive blast, and MJOLNIR returns to her hand. Unfortunately, the destroyer is barely phased, and as it stalks towards her once more, the cavalry arrives. Chapter 8. Just outside Roxen Island, the Kull-possessed destroyer is confronted by Thor, the Odinson, as well as a virtual army of badass women. Back in Asgardia, Kull wants to know what Odin wants done with them, but he doesn't answer. The warriors wage a fierce battle, but it is ultimately futile until Freyja manages to shame Odin with his actions. Odin tells Kull to let it go and leave, leaving the battered heroes to recover. They all go their own separate ways, leaving Thor and the Odinson alone. Odinson confronts her with the knowledge that he knows who she is, Roz. But just then, Agent Solomon herself arrives and chews out Thor for nearly getting her killed, leaving the Odinson totally dumbfounded. In Asgardia, Freyja is furious at Odin for his actions and leaves him to his solitude. While in Jotunheim, Malekith is fulfilling his part of the bargain and resurrects Laufey. We then find Thor heading towards Asgardia. She hurls MJOLNIR away to await her call, and after 60 seconds she transforms back into the terminally ill Jane Foster. And that's all for today, guys. Stay tuned to get more new videos. Stay safe and keep watching.